Hello, welcome to Double O Neil. My name is Tris and this is my channel about building a model railway up in the loft using some of the technology that's available to us. I've been using recently a 3D printer, which is really fun, even using my CNC machine that I keep in the garage that I use to make parts for other things that I have within all my projects. If you've seen my previous episodes, you'll notice that there's a slight difference to me now, and it's the fact that I have lost my beard and my hair, and that was all for charity. NHS Charities Together is the charity that the money is going to. I've managed to raise £2,500 due to the kind donations due to me removing the hair. So that's been great, and a fantastic amount of support has been there. What I'd like to talk to you about is the bits that be in this video. There's going to be three main topics. There will be the lift out section where I've included an extra line. I didn't get a massive amount done on the lift out section, but that's okay. I've put the extra line on and we'll go through that in the video. You'll see some of the things that I've been thinking about whilst doing it. The next bit is 3D printed buffer stops for my 009 layout. I've been looking at what was out there and I had a few ideas of my own, and was kindly introduced to the Vale of, I want to pronounce this right, which would be Rheidol in Wales, where they have the Great Western line. There's a fantastic comment that pops up that mentioned a Great Western narrow gauge railway in Wales, which I'd love to go and visit. And so now I'm a bit inspired, and so saw some of the buffer stops in that, and I've used some of that. But check out their website. I'm going to put that up here whilst we're watching it. It's just beautiful. You look at the pictures and the videos that are for that railway, and it's really wonderful. So there was that, and then the next bit is the 009 layouts. I want to bring that down here, and to do that I need to do some things. But check out the videos. I will go through everything with you on there, and we'll have some fun along the way and see what we're up to. Thank you for all the comments that I've had on my previous videos. Obviously they can't always be positive, but they have been really positive, really encouraging. I haven't actually managed to reply to a lot of them. I've been busy doing various things, like cutting the hair off. I had to make a little video for that and then get that out there. Yeah, as well as make things. I've had quite a lot of orders for the copper clad sleepers, so I've had to order material to get them done. But anyway, thanks again. Check out what's about to come and enjoy. So I'm just getting some more of the copper clad sleepers soldered up, because I'm thinking when I go up to the loft I'm going to need these anyway, so I thought let's do a little batch of them, blitz through. But during doing this I learnt that the Pico set track and the Hornby set track have kind of two differences. One is the sleeper height is fractionally different. So when I use my copper clad sleepers I use kind of less of a spacer underneath, which is fine. I end up using both on the Hornby and the Pico, as well as the Pico track slightly wider on that inner gap next to where the rails are. So I've done some tweaks to my jig work anyway, and that was that really. I was just going to say, when you cut off all these sleepers, keep them for whenever you're doing this type of stuff, because you can use them in a bit when we've actually got to put the track together. And you'll see on the track that when we put some of the points together we have to leave sleepers out to get the rail joiners in, and then afterwards you can just slide it in. But they won't just slide in like what I'm doing here. So what I've done is I've raised the track accidentally by not cutting off the actual the little trucks or whatever they are that hold the sleeper and the rail together. So you just got to slice them off with a knife. Just got to be careful not to slice yourself up. I'm kind of cutting away from myself, and if you can't quite see, but my finger isn't about to get cut. It's going with the knife, so it's not going to get sliced. But I basically take off enough that I actually have one bit of the truck or the saddle or whatever it is still there, and then I cut off all the other ones, so it kind of hooks into place, and it will eventually be held in with PVA glue and gravel, you know, from our ballast in a bit. So there's that one. I'll just poke that in. And then there's some other places on the railway that you'll have to do as well. Alright. And yeah, so that's that. So we'll just watch me put it in on the other side as well. It's all pretty simple, and it makes it look nice once you've finished it as well. So there we go, just poke it in with the old fingernails. Lift the track up a little bit if you can. And that's there. And all the extras, of course, put them in a safe place for another day. We'll drop that one. Yep, drop them in there, and I can grab them whenever I need them. So on this point, you'll see that the rail joiners are black or dark brown. I'm not sure which colour exactly they are. I think they're around that kind of essence. And what I've got them there for is so I can have the section that goes off to the hidden hill, which this is going to be going to, on a effectively isolator. So then it allows me to power that separately. So if a train's coming in from there and then another one's going the other way, I can have a better run going on for the layout. So that should be pretty cool. I've got to figure that one out anyway, but I thought let's build it with that, and I can put drop wires down and power that section. So I'm purely focusing on this track going across, and you'll see that I'm kind of angling it. It's the semi-flexi track from Hornby. It really holds itself in place once you bend it to a certain position. And I've got to work out where things are going. So we then lay the cork down and so on. I like to hold the track in with nails, and then I can peel them out later easy enough with some pliers or snips. But what I'm actually going to be doing, I'm going to build up a bit of height going into the tunnel entrance, just to give the illusion, well, it's not just an illusion, it's actually happening, that it's rising as it goes into the tunnel, so then I can have a bit more 3D format to the layout, because my layout is very flat, and if I could do it again, I'd have a lot more going on with it. I quite like the ones that I see with a lot more heights, well, height change. So maybe that's something I'll do in the future. I'll rip it all back up at a later stage, and I'll have another go, as I see so many people do, and I completely get it. So I know this is my first layout, and first of many. So you just got to get a feel for these things if you've not done this before. You just got to play around until you're convinced that you've done the right thing. It's all about problem solving. You want to do something, how do I do it? What are the issues that are going to come when I do it? And then you have a go at doing it, and then you learn the other issues, and you make a mistake, but you can always fix it. I realised that when I was hammering this in, it's better to go from this side. Get to see my nice bald head there. Normally I've got my hair kind of brushing against the sky, but instead I've got my what was actually quite a cold head that day, even though it was a warm loft. So yeah, popping this all in. I've got various thicknesses of cork, so my main layer is like 3mm thick, or 1/8, and then my layers that I'm sticking on top are 2mm, and then I'm spacing them kind of every 6 inches. So I start with my first gap to start rising the track, and then another 6 inches rising it. So then we can have a nice incline or decline going on. And the pins just hold it all in place whilst it's gluing. And then I whip them out once it's dry. And eventually I even put some track down so it looks nice. With all the pins coming out, I can start considering putting some track down. And with this track, I need to put the copper clad sleeper on the end. So I just need to make sure that the track's sitting nicely, the sleepers are spaced correctly, because they were more majoritively up the end of where the join is. So I wanted to slide it back a little bit, give it a trim, and then I'm going to solder this on. Won't take long, just drop it on there, it's held nicely, and then we drop it on. And then I've drilled some holes because I'm going to put some droppers through, because this part of the track is isolated from the point. So we're going to have to join that up to whatever section I want it to later on with switches. But it means I've done my work now, ready for when I do it later. So that just drops in there. I know that it's going to be good. That single piece of track's going to be perfectly powered when I want it to be. And then all I do is I screw it in place. If you haven't seen my previous videos, if you just type in model railway screws, I've got some 9mm ones meant for 00 gauge. There's a whole bunch on eBay when you type that search in. And yeah, didn't take long to get them in the post, and I think they're brilliant. I even got the little screwdriver that came with it. But check out my previous videos, there's a bit more on that. I learnt about these from Budget Model Railways. Check out their YouTube page. I don't really have an association with them, but I've watched pretty much all of their videos. As I've been getting into this, I've picked up loads of things, and the biggest problem with the hobby is sometimes you can spend a lot of money on it. And there's areas that you can save a lot of money, and watching Budget Model Railways really shows you what you can do with just the basics, really. I really enjoyed what they do. So yeah, so they do a great job. Hopefully I'll meet them one day. It's father and son channel basically, and the son even does some 3D printing. That's what got me thinking about 3D printing my own things and bought one. So thanks to them, I'm doing things the way that I'm doing it. There's my cave entrances there, it's all looking good. All my droppers are there, so I'm just going to run an engine backwards and forwards just to make sure everything's okay. All the lines are powered as they need to be. And the pannier's going to test it for me, make sure everything's alright, no derailments or any sticking issues as it gets going. But I haven't done much more of the hill bit, but this is the bit I had to do before I could even start the hill. But the pannier is running beautifully over the join. It's going up the rise absolutely fine. And going nice and slow. Does it stop? No, it's absolutely fine. Running really, really nicely as it comes down there. And it should do. Track's clean, joins are good. And actually that single piece of track is powered directly. So it should be absolutely great. And we'll look at it from this angle. It's always nice to see the different angles. Just imagine a load of greenery around it. It's going to look really, really smart. So I can't wait to get it all done, but that would be the worst day of it all because I've finished. And then you've got to rip it all up again. I don't know. I guess your work is never finished if you've got a mind for making things and want to do some form of replication. So the next step was my 009. I wanted to make some buffer stops, and I'd had a little look online and found these Pico ones, and basically just some sleepers that kind of effectively screw together in real life. And I thought, well, what's on the real thing, you know? I looked on the Veil of Rodol, and they had these nice little buffer stops. I thought, let's replicate them. Let's draw them up and make it good. Obviously I love this image, I just thought I'd pop it back in. It's beautiful, love to go there, maybe in the future. So yeah, let's draw them up. There it is. If I did do these again since thinking about it, the bit that integrates, where it intersects, with the track, I'd make them a bit longer so they go a bit further down, just so it keys on a bit more. But I didn't have any issues later on. But I've made sure I've got the rivet detail on there and just mimicked what I could see on that one image. I wish I could see a bit more of it. Maybe when I go there I can take some pictures. But this is my splicer machine, not splicer machine, splicer program, and that basically adds the little supports and works out the program for me that then goes on the 3D printer. And I can pick various constraints of how things are done. So that's cool for me. So I'm just going to do 4 in this one because I'm going to have some on my actual layout. And then they're done, basically. This is how they came out the printer. Obviously I had to soak them in IPA. I've been I've had the suggestion that I could use methylated spirits, but I need to get some of that, and that means I need to go to B&Q, and at the moment the queues are ginormous and it's not essential. But give them a little clean up, get a knife on them and take off anything extra, even get a file on them at points and get them sorted. And I'm happy with how they look. They look just like how I printed them, though like I said, the little feet that go onto the track, some of the little bits were missing from them. So I think if I make them slightly wider, slightly longer, so they're a bit more substantial, they should be alright. So if I just poke them on the track and see if they go alright, that'll be quite interesting to see what's the fit like, because obviously they might shrink slightly differently to what I want. This is before I've UV cured them though, so I think they all harden up and I don't know, maybe change size a little bit, but yeah, they look good. They're holding on when I do that. And then if I just get the engine and just line them up next to it, here it is, looking gorgeous. Really pleased with how this turned out, and I've got a few things I want to tweak on it for my next version of it, but that's looking nice. So really the next step is to I want to build a little UV box, and basically it's going to have UV LEDs inside. I've cover the inside of the box with aluminium foil. I've seen loads of people do this on the internet. Kathy Millett did it, as well as a bunch of other people that have done this. So I thought I would do the same, use a really useful box. I'm sure you all know of these boxes, very useful boxes, and basically do this aluminium foil, and then I'll put the LEDs in there, pick the wires through and put it onto a power supply. So these will draw 2 amps, but I'm not going to use all of the LEDs, so I thought should be fine. So I've got a 2.5 amp power supply, which I'll screw in the back so it looks good. I chatted to my friend Ian, he said, yeah, it should be alright. I thought, right, fine. So we've got that. We're going to pop that through, everything screws together, run some wires to it, and it's all pretty self-explanatory really, once you get it all together. And yeah, so it's looking good, so I'll just try it now. Oh. Okay, so that didn't work. Let's try it again with a beefy power supply this time. So I chatted to my friend Ian about it and told him that it exploded. And he said, yeah, there's probably a bit of a surge as it comes in where it draws all that current and it didn't draw itself. So I looked up the ideal ones for this, and it's about 5 amps you need as a power supply, but you get LED drivers that the LEDs don't start out flat out. They kind of, as my friend Ian explained, it kind of feeds in the power with a thermistor that then defines how quickly that power gets to the LEDs, and it'll be absolutely fine. So I'm using this power supply from my RC car stuff to begin with, and it's worked. It gets nice and warm in there actually, so it kind of bakes them with the light as well as the heat, so they, you know, pretty dry. There's no tackiness left to them, and yeah, so that's pretty cool. So the next step is to primer it. I'm going to paint it with a kind of a flecky paint that will give them a nice texture, which will be like a, you know how steel would be, it's never completely smooth. It's been painted over 10,000 times because it got rusty. So just spray it with a bit of grey, just a normal bit of Halford's grey primer. If I had an airbrush I could make a lot less mess in a be fine. So that's been painted. It's like a graphite grey blacky kind of colour, and then I want to do a bit of red for my buffer stops. So obviously you can spot them when you're coming in with your steam engine. I normally water down the acrylic. This is Mephiston Red by it's like the Citadel paints by Games Workshop from when I had all these models, and I'll do kind of like 2 or 3 coats over the same area. Do the front, top, bottom, and the 2 sides of the buffer stop, and we'll just do that. I kind of vary on how I paint things. There'll be a lot of good painters out there that might criticise what I do, but it gets the job done, and it will look nice in the layout as well. So it's nice to do a bit of painting, even as simple as this. You can see there's a couple of grey areas where the paint missed, but I will touch them up with some of my other paints, and we just speed through this. It'd be always nice if you could paint this fast in real life. Okay, so then I just need to get some kind of dark grey and a black so I can mix that together. I've got a Skaven Blight, I can't remember what it was called, and a Baden Black. Just mix those two together. I'm sure you could replicate that with some of the Hobbycraft paints and whatever you've got kicking around. Again, I water them down a little bit, and I just kind of tuck it into areas. if you don't already know, if you don't do much painting, when you water down your acrylics a little bit, it just stops you losing all the details. So you put down what paint you need, but it stays thin opposed to thick, and looking like it's been painted with acrylics. So you can get some really good finishes with acrylics. You just gotta just water them down a little bit and be prepared to do 1, 2 or 3 or 4 coats over the same area to get a really, really nice finish. It's something that I really like about them, as well as they dry in absolutely no time at all, so you can get those coats in really quickly. Whereas with enamel paints, you have to be a lot more patient, though there are small advantages with them. So we'll just get them all cleaned up, have them looking nice, and then we'll get them onto the track, see how it actually looks when you put them there. But I'd argue that they look alright. They look a bit more substantial, they look like what is in that image. Okay, so they fit on nicely. As you can see like the bolt detail that holds the main buffer piece on to the steel fabrications that would have been there, I'm assuming. So yeah, I'm pleased with that. So what we'll do is we'll pop up into the loft and we'll see it's on the little layouts. Add a bit of colour to it, won't it? So let's just drop it on. This is where the engine would come, so then it could go back around that siding to go back on itself. So that would go there. And for any runaway trains that have gone down the hill, this will be the one thing that stops it. I guess you need a big sandbank behind it in reality. So yeah, I'm pleased with how that looks. I think once you get some grass around it and some other bits of gravel, it will look quite smart. Let's run some little trucks up to it. There we are. I think that looks pretty smart. Like I said, it'd be good to go to that railway and actually go and see various details, take some photos, even measure some things. But next thing is let's go and look at making some sleepers, copper clad sleepers for the 009. I was making some more sleepers because I've had a number of orders from people to make these little sleepers, but I want to do some for myself, and this will allow me to bring my layout downstairs. So we just make these, and purely a case of machining. I've sped up this video, I don't actually machine them this fast, though I'm sure you could if you had a bit of confidence. But yeah, this is just the copper clad boards as you saw in the previous videos. I'll put the light back on now so you can see something. And I actually used the fiberglass PCB board here. I only had a few bits. It's a bit see-through actually. Looks like I've gone through all the way. And machined a bit differently. I was using the FRP stuff, which is the fibre reinforced plastic, I think it is. I prefer working with that stuff, but the fiberglass would be fine. But yeah, so making these means that I'll be able to attach them to the board that I have up there, and then once it's done, I'll be able to bring it downstairs, which would be brilliant. And I can work on it even on the hottest or coldest of days. If I had to, I could take it with me to my dad's or whatever, you know, keep working on it. So it means that I can crack on with the 009 layout now, which would be absolutely brilliant. So here they are, looking very shiny. You can see the groove that I've cut down the side, and that just stops it all shorting out. And then obviously you've got the hole and the recess, so you can hide your screw that holds it down to the track, and then ballast to go in there, and it will be hidden and looking pretty smart. You can see I've gone for a bit of angle, like with the sleepers on here, so it looks the same. Sorry for my bad camera work, but you can see it all matches up with that quite nicely. So I'll be taking off those three and replace them with copper bits, but the next step for me is really just to go up into the loft and try it. That'll be the key bits. And I've got one for that stays on the main layout and one that goes on this board. We'll just have a little watch of me doing it. we cut it to the length that you want, take off the tracks that you want. I didn't bother making a jig for this or any alignment stuff. I'm literally doing one joint connection between the two, and so I just had to work it out. So I just had to make sure everything went on flat, so I ended up backing the screws off a little bit, putting a little chisel under it, so then the copper lined up with the tracks. Here we go. Then I'll get the chisel and we'll lift it up and it'll just sit there, and I can solder it on 3 places. I just want to make sure it's dead strong. Yeah, I ran the truck up and down it just to make sure that worked as well. So that's now there, and then I need to clean that up. And what I found was that it was still rising, so what it then connects to needs to be a bit higher. When looking at it, I've got a bit of set track there which is very sturdy, so I wanted to use that instead of flex. And basically I need to remove all this again with a trusty chisel, make that nice. That's it. And then we get 2 pieces of 2mm to make it 4mm, because the piece that's on the incline is 3mm, so it kind of works out quite nicely. And then when we put the track on the other side, it'll be fine. So that is, those pins are holding it in whilst it's drying. I'll cut the track. It all looks to line up to me. I'm pretty happy with that. Give it a clean up. Which I ended up bending the track, had to re-snip it and have another go. But because it's set track, one end of it will not be messed around with, and that will have the rail joiners go onto that. I'm using the wood actually as my jig for this one, so I can line it all up nicely, and then I don't have to worry about anything moving. I can solder it together. Yeah, so this end is the middle part of the track that I cut, and the other end is undisturbed, and that'd be absolutely fantastic for when I clip on any other track to it afterwards. So then I can just line it up. Now I kind of do it by eye and feel with my fingers, and then I run a little truck in it, make sure everything works nicely. I put the screws in. Again, those model railway screws, absolutely brilliant. So I'm happy with that. That works out nicely. I can always do a small adjustment later on if I have to. Made a little mark on the board and its frame just to make sure they know the alignment mark. And that's basically it. And we'll clear it all off. And then I'm going to take it downstairs. I think I can tell someone's watching me. Makes me nervous like this. You have to be extra careful. Steady. So are you looking at me? Right, let's go into the bedroom. I can see my monster truck on the shelf. And pop it on here. And the next step is we need some stuff for it. Got some cork. That'll get me by for now. There's a hammer. We could do with some track. See if I've got any track. Okay. That should be good. Well, that should be enough for now. I think really we'll wait for the next episode and you can enjoy a bit of work on this maybe. Who knows? Who knows what I'll be up to. See you soon. Thanks for watching.